February 1931, Vienna. A royal carriage pulls up before the opera house. Inside, a young European monarch, King Zog of Albania, rises from his seat. Moments later, gunfire shatters the music. This is the story of the attempt on King Zog, told through the original reports of the British press, the Observer, the Telegraph, the Herald, the Guardian, the Morning Post, and the Evening Standard. What follows are their own words, the voices of a Europe both fascinated and bewildered by this Balkan king. And now, the reports begin. The Observer, February 22nd, 1931. Herr Schober, the Vice-Chancellor, went to the Hotel Imperial early this morning to express his regret to the King of Albania over the attempt last night on the king's life, and to congratulate him on his escape. The assassins who were arrested killed one member of King Zog's suite and seriously wounded another. Before the king's visit, the Vienna police had summoned Hasan Bey Bristrina, chief of the Albanian colony here, and told him that he and other leaders would be expelled immediately if there were the slightest demonstrations against the king. Bristrina promised solemnly to keep the peace. The attack was probably prepared several days in advance, for the three conspirators had followed the king and his suite on their visits to friends. Both of the assassins, Captain Aziz Kami and Ndok Jeloshi, belonged to a nationalist organization. 10 years ago, Kami was a friend of Zog, but when Zog became king, he became his greatest opponent. The Daily Telegraph, February 23rd, 1931. As a result of the attempted assassination of King Zog of Albania, the Austrian police have ordered that the Albanian refugees in Vienna must leave the country. King Zog has recovered from his shock. The firing occurred last night as the king was stepping out of his motorcar after the opera performance. Major Topollay, who closely resembled the king, was riddled with bullets and killed instantly. The king escaped unhurt. Dr. Frank, the deputy police president of Vienna, declared today that the bullets which killed Major Topollay were intended for King Zog. The king was accompanied to the opera by Major Topollay, Major Libahova, who was wounded, and Major Toptani. As His Majesty stepped from the car, one of the men fired point-blank at him. The adjutant, Major Topollay, seeing the danger, threw himself in front of the king and received the bullets intended for his sovereign. Libahova, though wounded, drew his revolver and shot at the assassins. The police arrested them almost immediately. They are Captain Aziz Kami and Ndok Jeloshi, both Albanians and former army officers. The Daily Herald, February 23rd, 1931. After the attempt to assassinate him outside the opera house on Friday night, King Zog of Albania is keeping inside his room at the most fashionable hotel in Vienna. The police have arrested practically all the Albanians in the city and have discovered that Vienna is the center of the activities of those Albanian parties which were thrown from power by King Zog. Among the telegrams congratulating King Zog on his escape is one sent by King George. King Zog owes his life to the fact that his friend, Major Topollay, closely resembles him in appearance. Major Topollay was killed by the king's side. King Zog's court minister, M. Libahova, who was wounded during the shooting but still had enough strength to shoot at the attackers, is expected to recover. The king's attackers are Aziz Kami, an Albanian Mohammedan, and Ndok Jeloshi, an Albanian Catholic. Kami has confessed that he and Jeloshi had planned the deed the day before in a coffee house. The Investigation and the Exiles Manchester Guardian, February 25th, 1931. Police investigations conducted over the weekend have revealed that the attempt on King Zog's life on Friday night was a carefully arranged plot on the part of Albanian exiles. During the past 48 hours, 28 Albanian exiles in Vienna have been detained by the police. Amongst them, Hasan Bey Pristina, leader of the 1912 Liberation Revolution. Pristina's wife, who was also arrested, was released after cross-examination, but at her own request was allowed to remain in prison with her husband. In the reconstruction of the attack from the evidence of eyewitnesses, it has been established that a total of 5 people were engaged in the revolver battle round King Zogu's motorcar. As the first assassin opened fire, a few seconds after King Zogu had followed his court minister Libuhova into the motorcar, the aide-de-camp, Major Topollay, who had thrown himself in front of the king as the first discharge was heard, was shot dead. Thereupon a councillor of the Albanian legation, Sarace, and the court minister Libuhova, though the latter was already wounded in the leg, returned the fire almost simultaneously, while the assassin fired from under a tree in front of the car and fired a final shot through Libuhova's hat. This man was overpowered by the police and disarmed. A 5th man, who used a revolver, unsuccessfully attempted to join the crowd and escape. King Zogu states that he owes his escape primarily to the heroism of Major Topollay, who fearlessly placed himself in the line of fire the moment the first shot was heard. In appreciation of his great sacrifice, the king ordered that Topollay's body should be embalmed and conveyed to Albania to be buried with fitting honor. On Saturday afternoon, the king, accompanied by his suite, visited the sanatorium where the wounded Libuhova is lying and thanked him for his courageous conduct. A Reuters telegram states that King Zogu has received a telegram from King George congratulating him on his escape and expressing sympathy for the victims of the outrage. The king remains in Vienna. The Morning Post, February 25, 1931. Undeterred by the attempt on his life, King Zog of Albania will stay here until his cure has been completed. The king is considered to have exposed himself to unnecessary risk by his frequent meetings in public places with his friend Franziska Janko, otherwise the Baroness de Janko, with whom he frequently walked in the votive park. This lady was in the next box to King Zog at the opera and was said to have accompanied him to a cabaret afterwards. She is of Viennese extraction, but now lives at Tirana. King Zogu's nerves. Evening Standard, February 23, 1931. I fear that the attempt on the Emperor of Albania in Vienna will not improve his health. For Ahmed Bey, Zogu has for some months been a sick man. The strain of government in Albania is enough to try the stoutest nerves, and the nerves of Ahmed Bey Zogu are not very stout. Courage he has to a superlative degree, but his alert and almost febrile sensibilities have been frayed by the countless cigarettes which he twirls one after the other between tobacco-stained fingers. He is really safer in Tirana than anywhere else. Most of his more vicious enemies have long since been exiled and are only to be met with abroad, whereas at Tirana he has his own supporters and bodyguard and the constant attendance of his Italian friends. Sworn Friends, Manchester Guardian, February 24, 1931. The blood feud, which is said to have been responsible for the recent attempt to shoot King Zogu, is one of the most cherished traditions of Albania. But, unlike the vendetta, the blood feud, as practiced in Albania at all events, is two-sided. Instead of vowing to kill each other, 2 young Albanians will swear to stand by one another at all costs, till death do them part, and the relationship thus established is so sacred that the children of the 2 may not marry. The compact is made with due ceremony, the contracting parties sealing their vows by drinking wine into which each has shed a few drops of his blood. 2 such vowed friends, the story goes, once discovered that they were both in love with the same woman, a Turk. Their solution of the difficulty was peaceful, from their point of view. Rather than quarrel, they went together and simultaneously drove their daggers into the woman's heart. And thus ended the Vienna affair of February 1931, an episode that revealed both loyalty and vengeance, courage and obsession. A monarch survived. A soldier died in his place. And from London to Vienna, Europe tried to understand the code of an unfamiliar kingdom on the Adriatic shore. Another truth revealed, another secret uncovered by the Black Folder.